Hello, and welcome to Treetop Environmental News. I'm Inchworm, your anchor, bearing the news in this third week of January 2014. In New Brunswick, Canada, a train carrying crude oil and propane burned for days after it derailed and broke into flames near a village in northwestern New Brunswick. The train is the third major mishap involving trains carrying fossil fuel products. In late December, a train with more than 100 cars of crude oil derailed and exploded in a massive fireball, forcing evacuations. In November, a 90-car oil train derailed in rural Alabama, causing 11 crude tank cars to explode in multiple fireballs. Last July, a train carrying crude oil from North Dakota derailed and exploded in Lac-Mégantic, Quebec, killing 47 people and destroying the town. It was the worst rail accident in Canadian history. More than 3,300 ivory pieces and nearly 50 raw ivory elephant tusks were found openly for sale in a Burmese town on the Chinese border. The investigators say this discovery puts Mong La in the same class as markets in Thailand and China, both recognized as illegal ivory trading countries. The discovery comes just days after China publicly destroyed more than 6 tons of ivory. The decline of large predators such as lions, leopards, wolves, otters, and bears is changing landscapes from the tropics to the Arctic, finds a new study from scientists in the United States, Australia, Italy, and Sweden. An analysis of 31 carnivore species shows how threats such as habitat loss, persecution by humans, and loss of prey combine to create global hotspots of carnivore decline. More than 75% of the 31 large carnivore species are declining, and 17 species now occupy less than half of their former ranges. The situation looks grim for Rhode Island and the rest of the East Coast when it comes to climate change. In fact, the outlook is getting worse, according to state officials. Grover Fugate, the head of Rhode Island's Climate Research and Planning, recently said climate change is happening faster than scientists can model it. He said the destruction in store was previously modeled to include rising sea levels of up to 7 feet by 2100, but levels of 20 to 50 feet appear to be plausible. Currently, salt marshes are eroding at an accelerating rate, and rates of beach erosion are increasing, prompting the need to relocate some buildings along the coast of South Kingstown and Westerly, Fugate said. 26-foot-tall seawalls would be needed to hold back rising waters that threaten downtown Newport, downtown Providence, Block Island, and other tourist centers. The world is already beginning to pass tipping points for abrupt, catastrophic, and irreversible changes to the global climate, according to a new 200-page report released yesterday by the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. Abrupt climate change, unlike gradual changes such as steadily increasing global temperatures, can cause rapid changes to physical, biological, and human systems in a matter of years or decades, far too fast for humans to properly adapt. The report found that some projected tipping points, such as the melting of Arctic permafrost, are unlikely to occur in this century. Others, such as the collapse of Arctic summer sea ice, are already underway and accelerating. Other tipping points, like the collapse of the West Antarctic ice sheet, could occur in this century, but are not yet well understood enough to predict. The report concludes that while large uncertainties still remain, the world is not doing enough to prepare and anticipate for these types of threats, and calls for more research and the development of an early warning system that could give humanity a few critical years to prepare for the worst impacts of abrupt climate change. The number of U.S. sailors who say their health was devastated when they were irradiated while delivering humanitarian help near the multiple stricken Fukushima nuclear plants is continuing to soar. So many have come forward that the progress of their federal class action lawsuit has been delayed. Within a day of Fukushima 1's March 11, 2011 meltdown, American first responders were drenched in radioactive fallout in the midst of a driving snowstorm. Sailors reported a cloud of warm air with a metallic taste that poured over the region. Then Prime Minister Naoto Kan, at the time a nuclear supporter, says, "The first meltdown occurred 5 hours after the earthquake." The lawsuit charges that Tokyo Electric Power knew large quantities of radiation were pouring into the air and water, but said nothing to the Navy or the public. The Brazilian government has launched a major ground operation to evict illegal invaders from the land of the Awa, Earth's most threatened tribe. Soldiers, field workers from Brazil's Indigenous Affairs Department, FUNAI, Environment Ministry special agents, and police officers are being dispatched to notify and remove the illegal settlers, ranchers, and loggers, many of whom are heavily armed, from the Awa indigenous territory in the northeastern Brazilian Amazon. The operation comes at a crucial time as loggers are closing in on the tribe and more than 30% of the forest has already been destroyed. Biosecurity experts are scrambling to identify a mystery disease that has killed millions of oysters in the Pacific oyster farms of Port Stevens. There are fears the port may have to be quarantined to prevent the disease spreading. One grower alone lost 600,000 oysters in just over a couple weeks. "We were struggling to find any live ones, to be honest," veteran Salamander Bay oyster grower Robert Demar said. "We haven't seen anything like it before." And finally, new Florida laws take effect July 1st that allow toxic waste and sewage to be dumped, poured, and buried into the environment. Governor Rick Scott signed several bills at the end of the 2013 legislative session that allowed toxic waste and sewage to be dumped, poured, and buried all over Florida. Reduced fees and no additional cost for the polluting are just two of the greedy perks that construction, mining, and oil and gas companies will reap. The laws open up sensitive wildlife areas to exploitation and pollution, while the future generations pick up the final cost of the destruction. That's a summary of this week's environmental news. These stories and more can be found in detail on our Facebook page, Treetop Environmental News. And these weekly video summaries can also be found on our YouTube channel, Treetop Environmental News. Please visit, like, and share our pages, as well as the Trinidad Tree Sitters, also on Facebook. Our broadcast is from a giant redwood tree now threatened to be cut in a massive clear-cutting assault by Green Diamond Timber, owned by the Simpson and Reed families.